Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Dana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Dana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Ashtoto the True Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Ashtoto the True Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, give me a second here. Alrighty. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, just give me a second to get set up here. Sorry. Okay, whoops, not that one. Okay. On this 22nd day of April 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, text number 29, on page 96. Ascharyavat Pashyati Kaschad Enam Ascharyavad vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti shudvapi enam veda nachaiva kaschit Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit. Go ahead, Prabhu. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit. Go for it. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit. Anyone online tonight? 2. Go for it.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti
Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti
Shrutvapyanam veda nachaiva kaschit
Shudvape nam veda nachaiva kaschit. Chad.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat chainam anya srinoti
Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti
Shrutvapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit
Shudvapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit. One more. Vanessa?
Haribol.
Haribol.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschyadenam
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat chainamanya shrinoti
Ascharyavat chainamanyak shrinoti
Shrutvapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit.
Shudvapenam veda nachaiva kaschit. Thank you. Okay, word for word. Ascharyavat, as amazing. Pashyati, sees. Kaschit, someone. Enam, this soul. Ascharyavat, as amazing. Vadati, speaks of. Tatha, thus. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Anyaha, another. Ascharyavat, similarly amazing. Cha, also. enam, this soul, anyaha, another, shrinoti, hears of, shrutva, having heard, api, even, enam, this soul, Veda, knows, na, never, cha, and eva, certainly, kashchit, someone. Translation, Krishna says to Arjuna, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since the Gita Upanishad is fully based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to find this parallel passage in the Katha Upanishad, 127. Oh boy. Shravanayapi bahubhiya yo nalabhya shinvantopi bahavo yam navidyuhu ascharyo vakta kushalosya labdha ascharyo gyata kusalanushishtaha. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the supersoul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the supersoul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul, and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if, somehow or other, one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and therefore I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, I feel that invocation, Om Jnana Timirandasya, is perfectly pertinent to the subject matter here. Ascharya means amazing, and that's repeated, well, it's repeated twice. It appears 3 times in this verse. And because the ignorance of the soul, and with it the super soul, and the source of both of them, is the foundation for our ignorance, for our illusion that is keeping us bound here. So if it wasn't amazing, then we would be enlightened, then we wouldn't even be here. So that's why the vast majority of living entities in this world, not just human beings, are ignorant of the soul, and simply act on what Baba called the bodily concept of life, or the mental concept, the mental platform. So Krishna consciousness means to get off the mental platform and get off the bodily platform and the intellectual platform even, and to reside on the spiritual platform, which means to accept the truths that Krishna is giving us here as foundational to our understanding of who we are. As I mentioned yesterday, I think, the three progressive stages of self-realization. And Lord Chaitanya says this is all there is in the Vedas. This understanding of sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. Sambandha meaning, what am I? What am I? What is this world? Who or what is the source of them all? And what are the interrelationships between all of those? That's sambandha. That's one understanding of sambandha. Another understanding is to understand our intimate and eternal relation with Krishna. That's a different level. But to even begin the process of devotional service, we have to understand, what am I? Who am I? Practically every living entity, 99.99% of the living beings in this world, first of all, the vast majority don't have a developed mind or intelligence to even think along these lines. It's simply existing as a tree or as a dog or as an ant, a moth, whatever it may be. And what do you know? Well, I've got these powers, I got these fins, or I got these claws or something. And with them, I can get something, food to eat, right? They're the imperative of eating. And there's also reproduction, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Defending is a big thing. For many living beings, defending is fleeing. I see that all the time on my morning walk, which is so instructive. Oftentimes at the corner of Grand and Cass, there's trash has been spilled. There's a little restaurant on the right side, and there's two trash cans, one on the far side, on the north side of Garnet, one on the south side. There's actually two on the south side. And as we know, we have so many homeless people, and there can be things there of value in there that they can get, the plastic cans or the tin cans, and cash them in for, I don't know, $0.25 a piece or something, So they often this trash is spilled all over the place. So what happens is that often the birds come. There's seagulls and there's crows and different kind of birds come and forage there, So I can see the two manifestations of animal life there, which is eating and defending. Now, they're not going to do much defending, as it were. The defending is fleeing. As soon as there's some danger, if I could start walking there, they start hopping away into the road, even though the cars are coming. But that's safer than whatever's happening on the sidewalk. And as I pass, if I chant a little louder or something, they'll fly away. They've got the ultimate defense is fleeing like that. All right, so that's rudimentary existence. It's still the same soul, but it's covered more, and it's existing on a very basic platform like that. So this is what we see around us, is that the vast majority of living beings, embodied in tree bodies or insect bodies or human bodies even, are living on the bodily concept and for human beings sometimes on the mental platform, but not the spiritual platform. The spiritual platform is to understand that we as living beings are sparks of pure spirit. We are equivalent in quality to the Supreme Spirit, and that we are occupying this particular body for a temporary time. It could be 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 years, whatever is more. And it's not at all, we cannot at all in that state of consciousness fulfill our mission. We cannot become fully happy, we cannot become fully secure, we cannot become feelers in that bodily concept of life, because the body is by nature destructible. It's a very complicated machine, even if it doesn't get knocked around by an accident or destroyed by any of the ways mentioned a few verses earlier, destroyed by fire or water. Still, just by the passage of time, eventually it breaks down and just the diseases and everything, So that's material life. It's temporary, and all hopes, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, so we have a hope for eternal happiness, ever-increasing happiness, is inevitably frustrated. So that's what this world is like. Dukkādayam ashashvatam. In the 8th chapter, Krishna will describe it as an abode of misery and temporary. Temporary. That's like an underlying. Even though you might find you think, well, I got myself pretty settled here. I got a pretty good deal, but it's temporary because the time, just the force of time will degrade the body and eventually have to leave. So understanding the difference, the eternal difference between the body and the soul, and the nature of the soul as eternal, and by nature being full of bliss and happiness, but by conditioning, experiencing this anxiety and fearfulness and pain and this hard struggle for existence. How can we get from there, from this conditioned state, to the blissful state? Now, first of all, we have to believe that it exists, because all around us, people are suffering, people are dying, living entities. Sometimes there's these natural calamities, and there's so much suffering that goes on from that. So why should we believe that there's a state of being where we can be beyond that? And that's where, first of all, comes the realized souls, the need for association, directly or indirectly, as through books and other media. The person who's a human being who has existed or is existing in a state beyond what we're in, and is experiencing moment to moment this transcendental happiness and the state of eternality, even though we are in even though he or she may be in a temporary material body. That I'm getting completely convinced that I am not going to die. I'll have to change bodies eventually, hopefully into a spiritual body, but I am eternal, and there's no destruction. And living in that Krishna consciousness, understanding, the real essence of it is that the ultimate state of being for the soul in Goloka Vrindavan, say, not even in Vaikuntha, but Goloka Vrindavan, is this state of experiencing these varieties of loving exchange with Krishna at every moment. Never feeling lonely, I'm all alone here. Even though there may be separation, there's this love and separation where it's very intense, and what looks like the greatest pain is actually the greatest ecstasy. But that presence of Krishna in one's life, in one's mind, in one's consciousness, changes everything, because we're living on a different plane of a spiritual exchange where there's only the eternal present. There's no future I have to worry about, oh my God, should I get life insurance because eventually I'm going to die. There's none of that. Every day is a new fresh day in which you exist. You didn't get older. And either you're playing with Krishna, raising Krishna, responding to his flute, whatever, And by being concerned primarily with what Krishna wants and how I can help him to enjoy, you find yourself, because his ability to enjoy is unlimited, and you can partake of that for eternity. It sounds like a pipe dream, to someone who's completely embroiled in the material plane, but it's actually the reality. And it's this material plane that is ultimately a dream. It's a phantasmagoria, probably would say. Meaning that because it's so temporary, everything is changing. Everything is coming into being and staying for some time, and then decreasing and disappearing. That this is the asat in reality, and the sat, the eternal existence, is that place, that world that exists. This is where Krishna is enjoying Leela and Rasa exchanges with all of his unlimited varieties of servants and lovers and friends and all these different things. That's the amazing thing. This whole verse is about how amazing just the soul is. Well, what about the super soul? What about the eternal spiritual world? That's also amazing. But being open to the fact that though it's amazing, it's real, and that medium for giving us that chance to enter into that world of faith that is true and to live and act on that platform is the spiritual master, the realized soul. And that's why it's said in so many places, this famous verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Mata Sadhu Sange, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Association with real sadhus, and I think I've explained so many times the definition as given by Kapila Muni, what a real sadhu is: a pure devotee. He's completely tolerant and is fixed on helping others to become realized, and is merciful and So association with someone, even for a moment of that, can give you the spark. There may possibly some ladies come in, which is this is their side. If you just sit, that'll be good. Thank you. Either way. We are on page 96, studying text 29. So that's why, Prabhupada mentions at the end of this paragraph of this purport that the easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, the soul, the Atma, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So we have been blessed. Srila Prabhupada, beginning in 1965, everyone knows the story, he took the great leap, of faith of getting on a boat, not even a passenger boat, a cargo ship, which was fitting up with, you can imagine the rudimentary quarters he had. And, sailing all the way from Calcutta to New York, which was difficult. There was a lot of seasickness, and he had a heart attack, 2 of them. But still, he persisted, he endured. And Krishna, eventually took charge of the ship and made a calm crossing over the Atlantic. During the hurricane season, September, I lived in Miami and I know. So it was miraculously calm, That is the first miracle. So, by Prabhupada's efforts and his great faith and his realization and his purity, he is what he sometimes called a transparent via medium. But the via means a way. Medium is always a transparent medium by which Krishna could speak to us in a language we could understand, and Prabhupada give us the example of how to live and what to do in order to develop the consciousness, in order to live on the spiritual platform as souls, always realizing that we're spirit souls, we're temporary, the body is temporary, and therefore don't be attached to it. Use it. Use this facility of the body, the mind, the senses, everything, to connect to Krishna in Bhakti Yoga, and that means through loving devotional service. So that's what, and the foundation is here, Krishna's giving us these lessons on the soul, the nature of the soul. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll proceed. You have a question? Could you hand him that mic you have right there? Thank you, Prabhu. We have 2 other mics, but anyway.
2 quick questions. 2 heart attacks on the ship. Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks, or the other passengers?
He did. There were no other passengers. There was only the captain and his wife. It was a cargo ship.
Wow.
Yes, he had, and he said that later he would keep a journal, and he said, well, if I have another one, I'll be finished. And then he recorded a dream. Krishna came to him in a dream and said, don't worry, I'm taking charge of the ship. And then everything quieted down. It was a miraculously calm crossing. I'm telling you, like Atlantic Ocean during the hurricane season can be very rough. Yeah. But it was so calm, all the way from, the Suez Canal all the way to New York, that the captain's wife, who was traveling with him, she jokingly asked Prabhupada, can you please come back with us? Because that's the calmest crossing we've ever had. They had been across a lot of times. So that was just one of the many miracles, in which Prabhupada was helped by Krishna directly in spreading Krishna consciousness.
As editor, I would imagine you have some insight as to why in the boldface they describe whether Prabhupada used the word him, the pronoun him, on 2 different occasions.
Boldface means one of the translations?
4. Yeah, so I'm on the top of page 97. On 4.
Some look on the soul and him as amazing. Well, what do you want? Him or her? No, we're not in it. We're living beings.
If I were to write it like gender neutral, we would say some describe it as amazing, the soul. No?
Do you feel like an it?
Sometimes. I'm not the right person to ask.
We're not a thing. Especially for the soul. the body is actually dead, but it's enlivened by the presence of the soul. So the soul is the thing that really lives in the body. It's a default. You have to use a pronoun, and this is what usually, and it's true. Prabhupada would has a bias toward the male pronouns, and he would even say, one has to be a very intelligent man in order to take up Krishna consciousness, but it applies to women. I think they understand that after a little while. Man means human being. He's speaking. He learned English in the Scottish Church's College at the beginning of the 20th century, and that's the way it was in India. So we try
in
to.
In India, we generally say man means both woman and man. We understand that way.
Even in India, generally.
Generally, we understand. I don't know it is British English or what, because of which.
Yeah, I don't know, but the thing is, it's controversial now because of the present stage. But anyone who reads Prabhupada's book soon gets it. Okay, he's not just speaking about men and forgetting the women. And he proved it by his movement. He was very welcoming women and some given very responsible positions, and very influential. So we just have to kind of go over that.
But I mean, I think that's super interesting. So what Prabhupada's saying here is that the actual essence is right there by attaching a pronoun to it.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like I think of myself as the person based on my name and my body and things like that. And by attaching a pronoun, I mean, it's just like emphasizing the point that
it's a living being.
That's the
Yes, yeah. It's the living being.
That's where the existence resides, is there, not anywhere else, right?
Yeah, you got it. All right, let's go on. Text 30, right? All right, here we go. Dehi nityam abadhyoyam Dehi sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shojitamarhasi. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore you should not grieve for any living being. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna as a Kshatriya should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhishma and Drona, will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war, it is not discouraged, and when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. So this is this 20, I think it's about 20 verses. Krishna has spoken on the soul, beginning with like Dehi nosmin yatade, Ashochan Abashotastram, where he begins chastising Arjuna in text 11. So you go 11 through 30 and you get 20 verses. You're lamenting for what is not worthy of grief, he says in text 11. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Because it's like, it's like we're driving cars here, and if a car is wrecked, well, too bad, just get out of the car and keep going. And that's what the living being is doing. All of our cars will be wrecked at one point, meaning we'll die. But we go on living. The question is what we do between now and that critical point, because the main thought is when you leave your body determines your destiny. So that's why Krishna consciousness is so important. It's try to fill our mind with Krishna and see him everywhere. That's why. Well, how do the great souls see Krishna everywhere? Because they see, first of all, this is his energy. I'm walking past this tree, but inside the tree is a soul who's part and parcel of Krishna's spiritual energy, and this rest of this matter here, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, that's also Krishna's energy. He says right in the 7th chapter, all of solid things, and they're non-living, They're not conscious, but they're energy. And they relate it to Krishna. That's where it comes from. So the great souls, they see Krishna. Everything reminds them of Krishna. So how could they be out of Krishna consciousness? You see? They're seeing the relation of Krishna in everything and every person, every living entity. So that's what we're aiming for. That's where this knowledge, that's one of the points that the knowledge aims at, is to enable us to see Krishna everywhere. And, when we go through, just as a precursor, we'll come to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is all about Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, right? Meditative yoga, which is classic. And after describing all the process, sitting in this way, going to a secluded place, practicing pranayama, I think he mentions control of breath, control of the mind, Arjuna says, I can't do it. He's a Kshatriya, he's active, and he says, Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balabadvidham tasaham nagaham manye bhayavi vichaduskaram. The mind is very flickering. Here it goes, here and there. You can think of here, it can be here 1 minute and a million miles away the next. So it's undoubtedly flickering and powerful. Sometimes the mind, you can't forget something. This is what PTSD is all about. You go through a very difficult experience, something that is very painful, the memories, but you can't forget it. You can't put it out of your mind. It's staying with you. So the mind is powerful, but we can train it. Through a certain process, but Krishna says, well, you can succeed through practice, but Arjuna is very pessimistic. So Arjuna's representing us. After all, we're in the Kali Yuga. He was in the Dwapara Yuga, but he was rejecting it. So that Ashtanga Yoga is not really possible in this age. Very, very few can achieve something. So, but then at the end, he gives hope to all the bhaktas, and he gives hope to Arjuna. Yogi namapi sarve sham. Madgaten antaratmana, shraddhabham, bhajate yomam, samayuktata bhomata. Some of them, he said, my opinion. Now the word opinion, I was trying to get it out of here. Opinion, look it up in the dictionary. It's something that is not necessarily supported by fact. In other words, it's doubtful. It's somebody's own opinion. And if it's an opinion of a fallible soul like human beings, which it usually is in the opinion section of the magazine or the paper, then it's not something that you can really use as evidence, to live by or to prove anything. It's someone's thoughts that they come up with, So, but Krishna's opinion is final. He doesn't have an opinion. So I prefer to say, and in conclusion, my conclusion is that, or I consider, and in that last verse he says, one who is always thinking of me abides with me, in me, and is always worshiping me with great faith. Shraddhabam bhajate yomam. The bhajana is in there. I consider him the best yogi of all. Well, Arjuna just breathed a big sigh of relief because he's naturally attracted to Krishna. He's his good friend. He's a very advanced yogi. So he said, oh, great. And then in the next chapter, Krishna teaches us practically how we can begin to see him in everything. That's where you'll find, Rasoham Mapsakamteya Babasmi Shachishuyavo. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the ability of man. I am the sound and ether. I am the fragrance. He goes through all the senses, and he says, when you experience anything, any smell, know that I am the fragrance. When and so this is practical for us. And then, more important, he is also Rishikesha. That name is used a dozen times in this book. I am the master of the senses. I'm the master of your senses. Therefore, when you use your senses to my purposes and to satisfy me, you will become completely satisfied spiritually. That's the source that's the basic meaning of bhakti. But the materialist rebels the material mind. What about me? I'm using myself just to please Krishna. What about me? Not realizing that we are part and parcel of Krishna, and that if we satisfy Krishna, we'll naturally be satisfied. And that even if the body is ill or dies, we'll stay satisfied. We'll still be able to enjoy in relation to Krishna because we'll be in a spiritual body. That requires faith because we can't see that. But that's the reality. And the wonderful thing is, even in the contaminated state, doesn't matter who you are, you can take up bhakti yoga. There's no prerequisites. What is that famous verse? Nam namakadi bahudani dasarva shaktis tatrapita niyamitak smadane nakala. Eta dushita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaivam yidushamihajani nanuraga. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava, too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace. But I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. So, Krishna, this is Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, taking the role of a sadhaka, saying, I understand you have so many names, but I'm so unfortunate I haven't developed it. Well, how to develop a taste? Trinana Bisuni Chena. Next verse. Chant in a humble state of mind. In other words, realizing our actual position, but chant with the mood of appealing to Krishna. Please bring me up out of this darkness and engage me in your service. With that mood. A humble state of mind, what does it say? More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. To think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. You remember how it goes? One who chants in this mood attains success. That's the idea. Can chant the name, it can be empowered by the Lord to chant incessantly. All right, let's continue. So that was the last verse. The idea that it can never be slain, so no one's going to die in this battlefield. No soul is going to die. They'll change their bodies. And therefore, you should not hesitate to participate in the battle, which will, ultimately end in Bhishma and Drona being killed. But their bodies will be killed, but they'll be exalted because they're going back to Godhead. So you have no reason to hesitate. That's the whole idea, is getting into that. All right, going on. Text 31. Swadharmam apichaveksha navikam tam arhasi dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyonyat chatriyasya navidyate. Lady side. Okay, considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation. Purport. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, we're on page 99. The second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. I'll probably say cut. Chat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm. Triya is like, triyate means to protect or save. One who gives protection from harm is called Kshatriya. That's probably said triyate to give protection. I swear I got it. I swear God I didn't read that in the next slide. Anyway. The Kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. A Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specifically trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Aveshamito nyonyam jighang santo mahichitaha yudhamana padam shaktya swargam yant aparan mukhaha yagyeshu pasavo brahman hanyante satatam vijay sanskrita kilamantraischa tepi swargam avapnuvan. In the battlefield, a king or Kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmins also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Close quote. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. Even the animals, they get a new body, a better body. The animal sacrifice gets a human life. immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmins who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmins and Kshatriyas respectively, and these duties are unavoidable. Such swadharma is obtained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, swadharma is called varnashram dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of varnashram dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. So this is a subject matter that's explained in great detail in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The principle of Dharma. What is Dharma? At the very second verse of the Bhagavatam is very certain, very forceful on this. What is it? Dharma projita kaita votra. Dharma projita kaita votra padamamne matsadanam satam. In this word atra means here in the Bhagavatam, Dharma projita kaita votra atra. That all the cheating religions, kaitava dharmas, are thrown out, kicked out violently. Projita means thrown far away, get out of here, right? Near Matsadanam Satam Vejam. And then it describes, this book is understood by those who are satam, who are saintly, who are not envious, and it goes on like that. But Dharma is a main theme in the Bhagavatam, especially in the first canto. 2nd chapter, what is real Dharma? And the answer of Sutta Goswami, he's saying that Savai Pungsang Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti at Hokshaje. That's the concise answer. The supreme Dharma is that which engenders, which develops your bhakti for adhokshaja. Now it's significant that he uses this word to describe Krishna. Adhokshaja it doesn't describe any of the activities of Krishna in Vaikuntha or in Goloka Vrindavan or in this Vrindavan. All it means is, can combine the 3 words, Ada Akshaja. Akshaja, Ja is short for Janma, means birth. That knowledge obtained through your use of the senses, the famous ascending process, the scientific process. With our eyes we'll observe, with our ears we'll hear, and we'll figure out a thing, and then we'll come to the conclusion what it is. This is scientific, and that is the scientific truths, you see. But that can never reach Krishna, because Krishna is transcendental to the perception of all of these senses. So he is called the transcendent Lord. So how can we have faith and to try to serve the transcendent Lord? That's the role of the guru, to implant that faith. With his or her spiritual senses, he's perceiving the Lord at every moment. Yes, he exists. And how do I know? From the basis of the Shastra, from the basis of the words of the previous realized souls. So that foundation of faith, that's why Lord Rupa Goswami's famous ladder, from faith to love, Adhau Shraddha, in the beginning is faith. And then what? Sadhu Sangha, increasing your faith. Satam Prasangan Mamaviya Samado describes what happens if you gather and you glorify Krishna's Sankirtan and hearing the Shastra. What will happen? Shraddha, Bhakti, how's it go? Satam Prasangan Mamaviya Samvido Bhavanti Ritkan Rasayana Katata Joshanada Swabhavagavani Shraddha Ratir Bhakti Ranukabhishati. Step by step, your faith in the existence of the soul, in the existence of Krishna, in the existence of bhakti, will increase. And then your rati, your actual attraction for Krishna, and ultimately your bhakti, your real loving devotional service to Krishna, will increase step by step. in the association of realized souls. Because here they're convinced, they're living it, they're expressing it, and they're showing the qualities of what a real bhakti is. The tolerance, the bliss, the peace, the generosity, the compassion, all of these different things that are qualities of the devotee. And so on that foundation of faith, we can practice devotional service. And then, what is our duty? We have duties within devotional service. Okay, you want to be part of the ashram, your duty is get up early in the morning. You got to come to Mangalarti and do these things and learn, the prayers, and then various duties to perform service, either in the temple or you go out to help others to become Krishna conscious. Those are duties you accept. Duties are something you accept from a higher authority. Think about it. Social duties. Hey, we're in a war. I remember when I was a kid, I didn't want to accept the authority of the government to draft me into the army and send me over to Vietnam. I just thought it was, it was the most horrible thing they were doing, bombing innocent people, and it was a whole perversion. But in this case, this is the Lord Himself who's drafted Arjun, right? He's the one who wants him to fight. Arjun doesn't want to fight. So now, at the end of the book, he'll say, yes, Kadashe Vatanam, I will fight. You've convinced me. You see, because it's everyone's good. No one's gonna die. No one dies, right? Every single body dies. Right? Our bodies are all gonna die. But every single body dies. Everybody dies. Nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body. You're a pure spirit soul, and attain life's goal. It's a little ditty. It more or less condenses all the philosophy. So that's what he's trying to convince him. No one's going to die. Your beloved guru and grandfather and everyone else you love they're going to go on to higher destinations. They'll be benefited, And so you don't have to worry about being guilty of, sending them there. So that's the ultimate point. But so Arjun has to do his duty as a Kshatriya, which will be performing his higher duty in service to Krishna. That's the whole point. Is that Varnashram is perfected. What is it? I always forget this verse in the first chapter, second canto, first canto, second chapter. That what it says is that the success of Varnashram Dharma, and it's divided into two. There's the social roles of brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, and there's the spiritual roles of Brahman. Brahman, Kshatriya, those are the social roles, the different, and of course the Vaishyas and the Shudras, right? Different social roles. But then there's the spiritual roles, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. And the perfection of all of them is that Krishna is pleased, that Krishna is served, and that everyone is advancing in devotional service. You're developing your understanding of Adhokshaja. So he's not so much Adhokshaja anymore. He's not he's beyond the reach of your material senses, but your senses are becoming purified and spiritualized, and so you're able to see Krishna everywhere through his energy, or in the holy name, and in the forms and all the pastimes. So that's what's being mentioned here. Duty is essential, but we have to know what the essence of duty is and what the goal of duty is. It's getting late. All right, we'll have our little poetic interlude, if it's okay. I just remembered this one. I don't think I've shared this with you in a while, but this morning somehow while I was chanting japa, it came to me. So let's see if I can remember it now. Smitaduchi Makadanda. It's all about, I'll just do the subject before I is the beautiful lotus face of Krishna. Smitaduchi Makadanda Syandivaktarabindam Tavapadapadahansan Vishtagandham Mukunda Vidichata Pashupari Neta Sarangadangan Mamadidiyatadhage Sangamangi Karotu. From the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious beauty, from the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious nectar of the beauty of your smile. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus, which says, "Air, their hearts beguile." Air means ever. This is the word you can condense it. E-V-E-R. You put a apostrophe in there, it becomes air. E-apostrophe-E-R, and then it becomes one syllable, but it means the same thing. Air there. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus which is there their hearts beguile. Your beloved gopis' eyes, mad bees, taste the most exquisite pleasure in that lotus of your face. On my day Mukunda Deva, I pray, may the lake of my poor heart be by that lotus ever graced. And on that note, we'll adjourn and begin to... Yeah, it's in the poetry file if you want it. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And now we've actually left adequate time for pivoting on into our Artik position. Okay, so Monday we'll begin with text 32.